The smoke hung thick as a shroud in the Inferno, a popular Seattle nightclub in the heart of the city's burgeoning music scene. The air thrummed with the bass line of a soulful funk track, yet above the music and the murmur of conversation, a sob cut through the atmosphere. A young woman, barely out of her teens, was slumped against a velvet-upholstered booth, tears streaming down her face. Her bright red lipstick was smudged, and her teased, auburn hair was starting to droop. Around her, the revelers seemed oblivious, lost in their own worlds of rhythm and cheap thrills. Her name was Evelyn, and Shed dreamt of this life for as long as she could remember. The glitter, the music, the freedom, it was everything her small town in rural Washington wasn't. For years, Shed devoured magazines, memorized lyrics, and practiced her dance moves in front of a cracked mirror, all in preparation for her escape. And tonight, she was supposed to be celebrating. Evelyn had arrived in Seattle just 3 weeks ago, suitcase filled with ambition and a heart brimming with hope. Shed landed a waitressing job at a diner near the docks, enough to pay for a tiny, cramped apartment in a boarding house. The Inferno was her reward for surviving her first few weeks in the city. But the reality of her dream was proving to be a harsh awakening. The city was gritty, overwhelming, and lonely. The diner was filled with gruff sailors and demanding customers. And the Inferno, with all its glittering promise, felt empty. The freedom she craved was just another form of isolation. Across the crowded dance floor, a man with silver hair and kind eyes watched her with concern. He nursed a glass of amber liquid, his gaze unwavering. His name was Arthur, and he was a fixture at the Inferno. Had seen countless dreams blossom and wither within its walls. Arthur was a product of a different era, a time when tradition reigned supreme. Had grown up in a world of formality and restraint, where expectations were clearly defined, and deviations were frowned upon. Had inherited his father's tailoring business, a respectable and established enterprise in the heart of downtown Seattle. For years, had dutifully followed in his father's footsteps, crafting impeccably tailored suits for the city's elite. But beneath the veneer of respectability, Arthur harbored a quiet rebellion. He found solace in the music, the art, and the unconventional spirits that frequented the Inferno. He admired their audacity, their willingness to break free from the constraints of tradition. He slowly made his way through the throng, his movements deliberate and graceful. He reached Evelyn's booth and gently cleared his throat. "Excuse me, miss," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Are you all right?" Evelyn looked up, startled. She quickly wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup further. "I'm fine," she mumbled, her voice thick with tears. Arthur didn't believe her for a second. He gestured to the empty seat opposite her. "May I?" Evelyn shrugged, too emotionally exhausted to protest. Arthur settled into the booth, his presence surprisingly comforting. He signaled to a passing waiter and ordered a glass of water for Evelyn. "Sometimes," he said, after the waiter had left, "the brightest dreams cast the longest shadows." Evelyn looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Arthur said, "that sometimes the things we desire most turn out to be different than we imagined. The reality rarely lives up to the fantasy." Evelyn's tears welled up again. "But I wanted this so badly," she said, her voice cracking. "I wanted to be free." "Freedom is a heavy burden," Arthur said softly. "It requires responsibility, resilience, and a clear understanding of what truly matters." He paused, taking a sip of his drink. "Tell me, miss. What did you hope to find here in Seattle?" Evelyn hesitated. She looked around the club, at the dancing figures, the flashing lights, the intoxicating energy. "I wanted to be someone," she said finally. "Someone important. Someone different." Arthur smiled sadly. "And what's wrong with who you are now?" Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't know how to articulate the feeling of inadequacy that gnawed at her. She felt like a small-town girl trying to fit into a world that was too big, too loud, too complicated. Arthur recognized the feeling. Had felt it himself, trapped between the expectations of his family and the desires of his heart. "Tradition and change," he said, almost to himself. "They're always at odds, aren't they?" "What do you mean?" Evelyn asked, her curiosity piqued. "Well," Arthur said, "I've spent my life living in the shadow of tradition. My father, and his father before him, were tailors. It was expected that I would follow in their footsteps." "And did you?" Evelyn asked. Arthur nodded. "I did. For many years. I learned the craft, perfected my skills, and built a successful business. But it wasn't my passion." "What was?" Arthur hesitated. "Music," he said finally. "Art. The freedom to create something new, something unexpected." "So why didn't you?" Evelyn asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Fear," Arthur said simply. "Fear of disappointing my family, fear of failure, fear of the unknown." He looked at Evelyn, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and understanding. "Don't let fear dictate your choices, miss. Don't let the expectations of others define who you are. Evelyn pondered his words. She looked around the inferno again, but this time, she saw it differently. She saw the desperation in the eyes of the dancers, the fleeting connections between strangers, the hollow promises whispered in the dimly lit corners. She realized that the freedom she sought wasn't about escaping her past, but about embracing her future. It wasn't about becoming someone different, but about becoming the best version of herself. "Thank you," she said to Arthur, her voice stronger now. "I think I needed to hear that." Arthur smiled. "You're welcome. And by the way, my name is Arthur." "Evelyn," she replied, extending her hand. They shook hands, a connection forged in the heart of a nightclub, between a young woman seeking change and a man wrestling with tradition. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn and Arthur struck up an unlikely friendship. They met regularly at the Inferno, not to dance or revel, but to talk. Arthur shared his experiences, his regrets, and his hopes. Evelyn, in turn, confided in him her dreams, her fears, and her growing understanding of herself. Arthur helped Evelyn find her footing in Seattle. He introduced her to his friends, artists and musicians who shared his passion for creativity. He encouraged her to pursue her own interests, to explore her talents, and to find her own voice. Evelyn, in turn, helped Arthur reconnect with his own passions. She dragged him to art galleries, introduced him to new music, and challenged his assumptions about the world. She reminded him that it was never too late to pursue his dreams. Inspired by Evelyn's youthful exuberance, Arthur began to experiment with his tailoring. He started incorporating unconventional fabrics, bold colors, and daring designs into his suits. He attracted a new clientele, younger and more adventurous, who appreciated his unique style. He finally felt like he was living authentically, embracing both his heritage and his desire for change. One evening, as they sat at their usual booth at the Inferno, Arthur turned to Evelyn and said, "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said about wanting to be someone important." Evelyn smiled. "And what did you come up with?" "I realized," Arthur said, "that being important isn't about fame or fortune. It's about making a difference in the lives of others. It's about leaving the world a little bit better than you found it." Evelyn nodded. "I think you're right. And you, Evelyn," Arthur continued, "you've already made a difference in my life. You've reminded me that it's never too late to chase your dreams." Evelyn blushed. "You've done the same for me, Arthur. You've shown me that it's okay to embrace tradition, but it's also important to be open to change." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the music, watching the dancers, and feeling a sense of contentment they hadn't known was possible. Suddenly, Evelyn stood up. "Come on," she said, grabbing Arthur's hand. "Let's dance." Arthur hesitated. He hadn't danced in years. But seeing the look of excitement in Evelyn's eyes, he couldn't refuse. He followed her onto the dance floor, feeling awkward and self-conscious at first. But as the music enveloped him, he began to relax. He let go of his inhibitions, embraced the rhythm, and danced with Evelyn, two souls connected by a shared desire for change, finding joy in the heart of the Inferno. The Inferno, a crucible where dreams were forged and shattered, became their sanctuary. It was a place where tradition and change could coexist, where the past could inform the future, and where two unlikely friends could find solace, inspiration, and a newfound appreciation for the complexities of life. Years later, Evelyn became a successful fashion designer, known for her bold, innovative creations. She never forgot her roots, and she often credited Arthur with helping her find her path. Arthur continued to run his tailoring business, but he also dedicated his time to supporting young artists and musicians. He became a mentor, a guide, and a champion for those who dared to challenge the status quo. And the Inferno? It remained a vibrant hub for Seattle's creative community, a place where dreams were still born, and where the music never stopped playing. It was a testament to the enduring power of change, the importance of tradition, and the transformative potential of human connection. The nightclub stood as a monument to the era, the people, and the enduring struggle between the comfort of the known and the allure of the new. The legacy of Evelyn and Arthur lived on in its very atmosphere, a subtle reminder that even in the most chaotic of environments, genuine connection and growth are possible.